first of all, a huge congratulations to you both. I know that it was a long 3 years to put it all together. And what is it like now having Girls Gone Veg out in the world?
Oh my gosh, Toni, you go first.
Okay, it's kind of surreal and like a bit of a dream come true. I think we put a lot of work into this, both together and separately, and to be able to see, where we started and, where we are now. I think, I'm so proud of the both of us. I think, food is a real passion of ours, and to be able to share that with, everyone else, I don't know, it's just really rewarding.
I agree. Just having something tangible now, and we've been working on it for so long, and it's something that brought me and Toni together. We didn't know each other before we kind of started working on this. It fueled a lot of our friendship, and it helped our relationship just grow so much. And just imagining now other people using these recipes, either cooking together or hosting or creating one of our recipes for their friends or loved ones, makes us so happy, because it's how it brought us together, and it's what we use those recipes for. Just, I mean, especially right now, I think the world can use as much connection and joy as possible, and doing that over food is very meaningful to us. So I hope a lot of people find joy in it.
And so you guys first met in 2020, so not that long ago. And it was during the pandemic, right? And that you guys had to like kind of build this friendship and connection, while being responsible, but also bonding over food. So what did that first look like? Who like kind of introduced this idea of who introduced the food conversation?
Well, definitely Toni. So many people had told us that when they found out I was going to Orlando, where Toni had already been a legend for many years, they said, you are going to connect with her right away. You guys are both such good chefs, and Toni's vegan. And I was kind of like, oh my gosh, well, I don't know what I can contribute to this new friendship, since I'm not vegan. It's funny because when we met and started training, we had a very brief period where we actually were able to connect in person. But then as it was like, oh, I'd love for you to try this, or I love this recipe, I'm going to send you this link, it immediately, everything got shut down. And so we started dropping off little packages of food for each other. And it was clear right away, Toni had these unbelievable recipes. She had cooked for the team. She even had done meal prep for players on the team. And you would never know any of her food is vegan in a good way. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to adapt and change my recipes to try to impress her. And I realized it actually wasn't that hard to make those adjustments. And so we started doing that. And then by the time we were able to form a bubble, so we were able to be a bubble of 4. So Toni and her partner at the time, and another really good friend of ours, the 4 of us trained together and ate together. And Toni and I started cooking together. And she taught me so much just about plant-based eating. And I am a self-proclaimed flexitarian, so I haven't been able to go 100%, but probably do like 80-20. Mm-hmm. And it's just so funny now. And after everything opened up, and I guess COVID feels a little bit like a long time ago now, just because we have spent so much time together since and worked on this together. But it came out of a very unusual kind of situation that we were thrown into, and how we were able to somehow test the recipes, write the recipes, and write this book and have a cooking show during all of this time.
That's incredible. So Toni, you found you're vegan. So you were the one who kind of started the food conversation. She's the muse.
No.
When did you adopt the vegan lifestyle, and what led you there?
So in 2016, it was like our off season at the time in Orlando, and I had mainly been just cooking like a lot of vegetarian meals for myself, and I didn't really know much about the vegan diet, plant-based diet. I just had heard the word thrown around bunches of times and saw that there were like a few restaurants in town that were vegan, and I was like, the more I like dived into it, I was like, this doesn't really seem that much different from what I'm already doing. So I was kind of really curious about it, and I was like, I guess I'll like give it a try, like, because I'm not really cooking meat at home for myself, might as well make a few minor adjustments and go all the way. And I've just really enjoyed it. I think initially there were a lot of performance-based reasons why I kind of stuck with it, but after learning, about the environment and factory farming and all like the way that animals are treated, I was just like, yeah, this kind of seems like a no-brainer for like the kind of life that I want to lead, and that's how I've been kind of able to stick to it.
Mm. And so you talk about some of the performance benefits. What were those that you saw um, initially, and then over
Mhm.
time as you learned more and did more, what did you continue to see?
Yeah, so right away, initially, I noticed I was getting leaner. I was sleeping better. I was less bloated. I felt like I had recovered quicker after training sessions, was getting less sore. Um, and and yeah, I think that's been something I've been able to kind of carry on through this plant-based journey, and it's kind of been cool to see. I think there are a lot of misconceptions about plant-based
Mhm.
diets where people are like, well, where do you get your protein from? You're not getting enough protein and all the things. And I think more and more athletes now are becoming plant-based, or a mix of plant-based and other diets. And I think that we're seeing now that it's doable. It's not as hard as we once thought, and we can still get all of the things that we need. And yeah, it's been really great.
Allie, do you see that when you're in season, do you typically lean more towards a plant-based diet, or in the off season, do you lean more that way, or do you keep it pretty consistent, kind of the 80-20 throughout the year?
It's at this point throughout the year, I similar to Toni, I already ate a pretty healthy diet, but I had fallen a little bit into the trap of like, oh, I shouldn't eat too many carbs. And when I actually learned about nutrition and I became a certified health coach, I realized really how important carbs are for, especially for soccer athletes. And with cooking with Toni and just eating more vegetables, that especially contributed to my gut health, and I was sleeping better. And I think there's a huge number of athletes, it's a really high percentage, that get an upset stomach with the nerves and like going into competition, and so stay away from dairy just prior to competition. And so for me, since I was doing that anyways, it kind of just extended out into my daily routine. But one of the hardest things, which I think is something that we have to acknowledge, is we are not we don't make the type of money that our male counterparts do. And so you know cooking every day and or eating out or whatever you do, it's something that can take a lot of time and a lot of preparation, especially. And seeing Toni, I admire her so much for being so disciplined and so prepared all the time, and I don't have that same personality. And I play for a national team that doesn't have a lot of funding. We don't have a chef. Now with Angel City, we're really privileged that we do have a chef, so I can eat vegetarian, vegan, and again, know that I am getting everything I need to compete at the highest level. When I go away with the national team to countries all over the globe, culturally it's different what hotels are going to have, and also we don't, it's kind of out of our control. And so that's something that has stopped me a little bit. And I think it's really interesting and important to acknowledge all people's different where they are in life, where they are financially, all of these different aspects. We are all so different, but that's why this cookbook is not about forcing anyone or trying to convince anyone of anything. And Toni has never been that kind of in your face, you need to do this, this, and this. And that's what made me more open to trying it. And these recipes are just fun and easy, and all the ingredients are accessible, and it's just like an approachable way to just, if you want to cut out, if you want to do meatless Monday, if you want to do it 3 times a week, 80-20, or if you have a best friend who's vegan, this, here's a dessert you could bring to their house. So that's just the kind of way, that we've approached it in our lives. And I think there are a lot of people who kind of have that mindset and might be a little bit like, it's so daunting or feel like you have to, it's so strict. And I think there's such a huge spectrum, and Toni is able to do that and is so healthy and so fit and strong and is such a good example of that. But it's like, we run the gamut of what our lives are like and what you feel like you can do. And so, yeah, I'm just still in kind of that phase, and just financially and with the national team, I think it's important for me to kind of be able to eat everything, because we don't have vegan food at our disposal all the time.
And I think it is a misconception as well, is that it's like, you don't know what you don't know kind of thing. And so it can be so daunting when you're like, what does this look like? What can it look like if you don't have the information? So fortunately, Allie, you have a resource in Toni, right? And also understanding kind of like the limitations of your lifestyle right now, and knowing, traveling can be one of those things you don't know. I mean, I like to say, like, the weekend warrior, the everyday athlete who's running races. And, if they're traveling, they eat peanut butter and they go, to Europe, they might not have access to that peanut butter for breakfast. Right. So I think that a common misconception is that, like, if you don't know what you don't know, and it can be so intimidating. So Toni, as you're inviting like teammates and friends into this, again, not forcing it, but inviting them in, what's your go-to dish that you serve them to be like, hey, this is what you need to try? And I promise you'll like it.
There's so many. I think I always try to give people something they're familiar with. That's how I kind of like reel them in. Give something they're familiar with, and yeah, for lack of a better word, yeah, but in a really nice way. So I really like making tofu scramble. I think that's really easy, really accessible. You can kind of tailor it to whatever you want, whatever vegetables you have. And I think that's so super yummy with avocado on the side, some toast, sprinkle in some cheese, or however you want to serve it. Any kind of pasta dish. There's really good ways to make creamy sauces with cashews, or Allie even has one in the book that utilizes like sweet potatoes. And it's like, she's very modest, but she I like, a lot of her recipes had already been plant-based, and she has taught me a lot about plant-based foods and how to be creative in the kitchen. And I think being plant-based, that's one, it's very fun to try new foods and see what you can make out of something, and just very resourceful. And yeah, so I think as well, we got tofu scramble, we have pastas, and probably desserts. Like, desserts are
I was
a big
gonna
one.
say, Toni, it's definitely dessert.
Yeah, like cookies, cakes, anything. I think people are very surprised when they're like, what? There's no eggs in here, there's no butter. Like, how did you
and
do
she
it? But
puts tofu in a cake.
yeah,
In the
like,
cake?
You're getting
yeah, sneaking in
protein,
the
you don't even know
protein.
it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now protein is like the buzzword, right? Anywhere you can get protein, you tell anyone that, they'll be eating it.
Yeah.
I also love this friendship, because I feel like both of you are just like complimenting the other, and like, I just, I love it. It's great. And so what was the recipe selection process with both of you? Because I feel like you're complimenting the other. You're like willing to take the other's recipe and not your own. So what's this process?
It was really hard. We had a lot of recipes between the two of us. I think ultimately it came down to, and Allie can speak on this too, but I think, first and foremost, we wanted to make this book accessible and fun and like something for everyone. So that, I think, we took that into consideration when selecting the recipes. Obviously, we wanted to put like our favorite ones in there as well, but I think just, making it not too difficult, easily accessible, things that people can find anywhere. I think that's the main thing.
It was hard to cut it down, and we are very like, you should put your recipe in. No, you should put your recipe in. But our publisher, of course, helped us so much, and our friends would tell us which ones were their favorites. But I mean, we could have a cookbook with pastas alone, I think, and desserts alone, and maybe a little more intricate, or a little bit like more difficult recipes that are a little more maybe gourmet feeling. But again, the vibe of this was really a beginning and approachable, like Toni said, and fun. And we also really wanted to have starters, small plates, drinks, dessert. We wanted to have all the different sections. So of course, then we had to narrow down each of those sections, but we didn't know what we were doing going into it. So our publisher, with all of her experience, was able to give us a lot of knowledge and kind of say, this is what we usually see, and this is how you should think about it.
This sounds like this is just the start of like a series that you guys could do. A pasta cookbook, desserts. I'm into this. What were the biggest lessons that you learned from writing a cookbook?
That I'm a really big procrastinator.
Are you like the all-nighter, like the night before, all-nighter procrastinator?
She is.
Yes.
Get out.
Yes.
Really?
Yeah. And it was hard, I think, because I wasn't writing a lot of these recipes down as I was like making them, or I had them. So once we learned, like, okay, this is going to be in the book, this is going to be, here, I was like, oh my gosh, like I have to now write all of these things down. I have to remake them all, write them down, like test them again to make sure they're all right. Have someone else test them. Allie's mom was a tester for me, God bless. And just like, I think I've learned that I'm gonna have to start writing my things down.
But isn't that like
just
what people
case.
love about cooking, right? Isn't that like the creativity of it, is that you can just throw things in, try different things, but then I guess when you're trying to share it with people, it becomes a little more complicated, right?
Yeah. We hope people take these and run with them and make them their own. But I think when you write a cookbook, you have to think about the cook, the chef, who has no prior knowledge, isn't going to know what to throw in, what it should taste like, what it should look like. And that's what the publisher kept reminding us, and the editor was like,
that's me. I'm like reading every single detail, and I'm like, when does this go in, at what point? Oh shoot, I put it in, do I need to start again?
Yeah, exactly. But I think too, like, this cookbook has so much significance for us, because when you go into business with a friend, there's definitely risks, and you have to learn how to work together. And we have very different personalities and just, methods to the madness. And so I think what I learned was really to trust Toni, trust her process. She got everything done. And also just to be patient with each other, but also it is not instant gratification. We've been working on this for 3 years, and you just have to kind of, and this was a side hustle too. So we were doing this while being full-time professional athletes. But again, I just think that for us, having a passion and a balanced kind of life to be able to work on this and have our soccer and the stresses of all of that. But also it shows, like, as women, when we don't make that much money in our careers, having this hopefully supplemental income and just to kind of spread our wings a little bit and network. And we've met so many cool people, and being able to speak to you and talk about it. And we're having our book signing in LA next week, and it's just so important for us, and hopefully can be something that we can work with and help us just in our careers and our lives for a really long time.
And this is, correct me if I'm wrong, the first time that 2 active professional women's athletes have published a cookbook, right? Like, you are paving a way for hopefully more to come and to follow in your footsteps. And you guys are doing that with this, but you guys are both doing that on the pitch as well, and what you've done with your careers. And so how important is that for you? Like, how aware of the paths that you're paving are you for this next generation? Is that something that you take into consideration year over year?
Wow. Yeah, I think it's always important to show others and have examples out there of like what is possible and what can be done. So, other women and young girls are like, wow, I can play soccer and I can do these things outside of soccer too. Like, I can do all the things because I am all of the things. And I think that's one of the reasons I'm so drawn to Allie, is because she is all of the things, and I'm so inspired by her. She's doing so many things off the field, advocating for so many people, amazing on the field. And it's just like, yeah, like, we're badass women. We can do it all. And I think just to be an example, and we're not put into a box, we're not putting ourselves into a box. We want to be our best selves. And I think, being able to do this with her is just one of the ways that we can do that.
And that's, I think, what I also love about women's sports, and especially professional women's soccer, is the way that everyone lifts each other up, and that it is, when one boat rise, all boats rise, philosophy. And is that something that you've had, Allie, your entire career, like growing up in the sport, or is that something that you found later as you were pursuing the sport at higher levels?
I think that there's definitely been a shift in, not in the women ourselves who are participating in sports. And, we stand on the shoulders of giants with Billie Jean King and the athletes and the soccer players also specifically, who have pushed so much for equity and media attention and equal all of these things. But I think that finally there's been a shift in the culture and the mindset of other people suddenly realizing, this is actually a good investment. Women's sports is not a charity. People are actually really interested in this. So yes, we're going to give them more media coverage. Yes, we're going to now sponsor the leagues, give money to federations, sponsor the individual athletes. And so I think for us to still be playing when this is so different from what we were experiencing when we were younger, when I didn't know I could play professionally, I didn't know that there were these types of opportunities. I couldn't dream big enough. And now these little girls will have role models and be able to see us play live and see us on their computers, on their TV screens. And I think too, Toni being a Black woman, me being Asian, it's also giving visibility and representation, again, where we haven't had a lot of that. We wouldn't have had that growing up. And so I think it's not something that I think I've realized, and it has shifted, but now, we're all in advocating and making things better for the next generations. And it's such a huge part of what we do, especially getting towards the end of our careers, when you just want to leave the landscape better than it was when you found it. And I really think that women athletes are doing that, across the globe, and in this country in particular, when I do think we have been given a larger piece of the pie than probably in other countries. And then we are using that to just try to, break the glass ceiling and raise the standard everywhere.
When did you, so, I mean, Allie, you mentioned here that you didn't know that even that playing professionally was a possibility. When did that dream become real?
Just when it happened, the league folded. There was a league that came briefly after the 99 Women's World Cup. And, I was still really young then. So I wasn't really thinking about what I would do with my career, my life, when I was so young, when I was 11. And that league, by the time I was, 15, 16, 18, the league was gone. And so when the second league came in, I was a junior in college. So it came at just the perfect time. Then I was drafted my senior year, but it wasn't until it actually happened that I knew that I could play professionally.
Yeah.
And it's so different now. I'm so glad.
Very similar for me. Like soccer was something I was always passionate about and just kind of assumed I would be doing because it's all I, was doing back then, from a small town where, soccer is like quite large and all the kids are into. And then, was fortunate enough to go to college for it. And the natural next step was professional soccer. Unfortunately, when I was drafted, the league folded. So that kind of left me going to overseas, scrambling, trying to figure out how to still keep playing. So yeah, just similar to Allie, just kind of didn't really fully realize it was a dream or like something that I can do until it actually happened, until I was like actually in the consideration for being drafted.
And what a wild concept when you think of that, of how much you guys have accomplished in that time, right? Like it wasn't that long ago that this wasn't a possibility, and now it is. And young girls can see that it's not only a possibility for them, but there are other possibilities. You can be a cookbook author. You can have your own show. You can, you know what I mean? You guys are doing that. And both of you have had kind of challenges in your own careers. Toni, you battled breast cancer, came back, and why was it important for you to share that journey and to show the resilience there? Because a lot of people could have made the decision to say, I had a good career and I'm going to just focus on my health and my life and be done.
Yeah, I think as athletes, we sometimes do come back from a lot of things, whether that's injury or, you're not in the squad and you're trying to make the squad. So there is a lot of like resilience, I think, already embedded in us. And I think that absolutely helped me kind of have the mindset that I did when I, found out my diagnosis and was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna have to, like, what do I have to do next? What's like the recovery? What's the like, I don't know. I think I was just kind of using that like soccer instinct of like, oh, I have to get back to like doing whatever I'm doing, as quickly and as safely as possible. I think, obviously I had a lot of help around me, my teammates, my family, my friends, medical staff, and I just feel very, fortunate that, I caught it when I did and I was able to come back when I did. And I think it's just important to be an advocate for others and a voice for others. And I hope that, if anything, it just makes women and, even some men aware, because I think as athletes too, at least I did, I was like, oh, like I thought I was invincible. You always think of like, oh, that could never happen to me. But I think health is so important and these things can happen to anyone. And if we're diligent and prepared and like proactive in our health, and I think, if I can push one message, it would be that, just to be proactive in your health.
That's so important. And I love that you not only advocated for yourself, because I know that, the story of it, right, is that you went in asking to be screened, right? Like you advocated for yourself and now you're advocating for others, which is incredible. And to talk about resilience, I mean, Allie playing in as many World Cups and with the New Zealand national team this year, then New Zealand being one of the host countries for it and winning the first ever game for the country. I mean, what was that like to have kind of, you go every time, you know the squad, you guys know that you're putting everything you have into it, and to finally get that W? What did that feel like?
It was the best night of my life. It took 16 years. 16 years I was playing for the national team without winning at a World Cup. And honestly, we had gone into the tournament with the very clear goal that we wanted to inspire the next generations, and we wanted to honor the players who had come before us and who didn't get recognized, didn't get paid, didn't get to win a game at a World Cup. And I just felt so proud, not just of myself and my teammates, but of everyone who was believing in us. And just that message was amplified so loud when we had the spotlight on us for that one night, to be able to share what our goal was and to acknowledge all the work that had gone in, all the players who had worn the fern before, and to try to kickstart something hopefully similar, maybe on a smaller scale, as the 99 World Cup final here in LA and what Angel City has done now for LA, but just to plant a seed in young people's minds, especially young girls, that really they can do anything. And I'm like, if we could win this World Cup game, I promise you can do anything. No, it was so special. And my parents were there, and my partner was there. And, so many of my teammates, friends and families who had been with us on this very long, torturous journey. But again, I want young people to think that the sky's the limit and to just dream so, so big.
I love that. And you guys are both examples of that. So as we wrap up here and you think about people going to, I'd love to say the store and getting the book or going on their computers, whatever they're doing, what do you hope that people take away? I know you said fun. I know you said just like a curiosity, but if there's like, is there anything else that you hope that people take away from these recipes and from the book?
I mean, you nailed it, like having fun, sharing with others, maybe trying something they have never tried before, or maybe inspiring them to be creative in the kitchen in some way. I think certainly that's, doing this with Allie, it's pushed me to be more creative in the kitchen and push myself. And I really love the way that cooking brings people together and friends together, family. I just hope that this book inspires people to have fun, be creative, to not be afraid to try something new. And yeah.
I know I'm excited to bring the cookies to a family party and not tell anyone that they're vegan.
Have you made them yet?
I haven't, but I just like
Okay.
drool every time I look at the photo on the Instagram, and I'm just like, and I'm hoping mine looks like half as good as those.
No, they're going to look great. And it's super easy. It's super easy.
Easy is good. I love that it's accessible. That was like, when you guys said that, I was like, I'm in. So I hope that everyone runs out, gets the book. It's a great gift for the holidays.
Yes. Perfect gift for the holidays.
There you go. Because everyone knows someone who's plant-based, and you need to have something for them at a gathering, right? Because there's nothing worse than being like, oh, sorry, you can eat the bag of pretzels or whatever, right? Like, yeah, lettuce.
Yeah, the lettuce.
Yeah, lettuce.
We also, it was really important for Toni to make sure that as many recipes as possible could be adapted for also gluten-free, nut-free. So again, we want it to be something for everybody.
I love that. I love that. Final question for you both, not related really to the cookbook or soccer, but I ask everyone, on your toughest days, do you have a mantra? So maybe soccer, maybe cooking, I don't know. On your tough days, is there a mantra that you lean on to get through?
I think for me, just control the controllables, I think really hits for me. It just really puts a lot of things into perspective and takes a lot of the stress off. If I'm like, okay, well, if I can just focus on what I can focus on and control myself and my actions and my effort, then I've done what I can do. And I'm like very, content with that.
For me, I also really like focus on what you can control. And also I really like practicing gratitude. So I think when times get tough, I think about my parents that I get to see all the time now playing in LA. I think about the club, the impact we're making in different communities. I think about the fact that I just get to do what I love for a living, my partner who takes such good care of me, and I have so much fun with him no matter what is going on in my life, my amazing friends, my published cookbook with my best friend. And honestly, I think those are things that I know I can always turn to, and is kind of that safe haven no matter what other shit is hitting the fan.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Both of those great mantras. Thank you both for taking the time. Congratulations on the book. And let everyone know where they can follow along with you on social, on the web, everything like that.
Yeah, so we have the the Instagram for our book. We are Girls Gone Veg, and that's also our website as well, where you can find recipes. My personal Instagram is Toni Dion, and I think that's Twitter as well. And Allie?
I'm Riley3, which is kind of confusing because I don't wear the number 3 anymore, but Riley3. And yeah, definitely check out We Are Girls Gone Veg, and it will have a link to where you can buy the book. You can find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble.
I love that. Well, thank you guys both so much, and everyone get the book.